In Monster Hunter World, there are many aspects to consider when taking on a hunt. The target, your weapon, these are all important, but hunters who want optimal performance need to consider the build they use via the armor and gear they wear. I'm Darcblade, and here are even more builds that I use for the switch axe. The skills that you can get from armor and even some weapons can help shape your hunter into specialized hunting machines. The switch axe is a weapon made for damage, but has two issues that need to be addressed, namely its mobility and switch gauge file management. The builds I use mostly aim on capitalizing and maxing out the weapon's DPS whilst at the same time managing its switch gauge and file. Most of the time the mobility issue of the switch axe can be addressed with the evasion mantle, so I would strongly advise taking this. Remember, these are very end game builds, and with these you should be able to tackle and rip through monsters easily. So the first build is the Elementless build version 2.0. The first Elementless build utilized the Axe of Demons. However, for this build, I've gone in a slightly different route. You can still use the Axe of Demons, but I've gone for the Trough Axe Horn. This I've combined with various health regen aspects to provide more survivability as well as maximum DPS. So for this you'll need the Kaiser Crown Gamma, Nergigante Male Gamma, the Draken Van Braces Alpha, Nergigante Coil Gamma, and the Nergigante Greaves Gamma. I'm also using the Handicraft Charm 3, and for my weapon I'm using the Trough Axe Horn. This has an affinity increase augmentation on it and a health regen augmentation. As for your jewels, I've gone for a mix of DPS focused jewels here, so an Elementless jewel to provide you that non-elemental boost skill, Handicraft jewel to give us some more sharpness. I've then gone for Tenderizer jewels to max out Weakness Exploit, Flawless jewels to provide that peak performance, and some Expert jewels to give us some more critical eye. Lastly, I've gone for that Sharp jewel to give us that Protective Polish skill. Now, if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 100 health, 100 stamina, 980 attack, which is actually higher when you're on a hunt thanks to peak performance, white sharpness, 30% affinity, which is actually 80% so long as you're going for monster weak points and have maximum stamina, with no element, power files, and as for your defense, you're strong against fire, but fairly weak to thunder and dragon. As for these skills, you'll have the following. You have a Critical Eye at level 6. Critical Eye increases our affinity by a base percentage. Attack Boost level 4, increasing the attack of our build, as well as once you get it to rank 4, it provides you an extra 5% affinity. Handicraft level 4. Handicraft increases the sharpness of our weapon, and at level 4, it allows the Trough Axe Horn, as well as the Axe of Demons, get to that white sharpness. Weakness Exploit level 3, increasing our affinity when we're striking monster weak points. Peak Performance level 3, increasing our attack so long as we have maximum health. Maximum Might level 2, increasing our affinity by a base percentage so long as our stamina is full. Agitator level 1, this is a byproduct of the gear, but when it does kick in, when a monster becomes enraged, you'll get some extra affinity as well as attack. You'll also have Protective Polish level 1, thanks to the Sharp jewel. This allows you to apply a protective coating over your sharpness gauge when you sharpen your weapon, preventing any sharpness loss for a small duration. And seeing as the weapon can only get a sliver of white sharpness, this is very useful. Next you'll have Non-Elemental Boost level 1, increasing the attack of our weapon so long as it doesn't have an element or that element or ailment is hidden, as is the case with the Trough Axe Horn. And then finally for the set bonuses, you'll have Nergigante's Hunger, Hasten Recovery, allowing us to recover our health when we're attacking a monster. This combined with the health regen augmentation found on our weapon means that we should be able to recover our health when we're attacking a monster. This also potentially allows us to keep peak performance active longer than if we didn't have any health regen aspects to the build. So as you can see from the build, this is a mix between DPS and health regen. Whilst yes, it is annoying that we haven't been able to get to 100% affinity and thus capitalize on the crit boost skill, this is really made up for the fact that we can have white sharpness and peak performance. Of course, there are lots of changes you can make here. For example, if you don't mind dropping down from white sharpness to blue sharpness, you'll have a few more options to customize this build. For example, you don't actually have to use the Handicraft Charm if you're willing to go for blue sharpness, allowing even more options. Also as well, if you don't have the Trough Axe Horn, you can use the Axe of Demons. However, the Axe of Demons can only have one augmentation on it, and you'll be torn between affinity increase and health regen in that case. If you want to focus on damage, take affinity increase. If you want to focus on health regen, maybe adding a bit more survivability, consider health regen. Nonetheless, this is a very powerful build for the switch axe, and it can be used to pretty much take on any monster, thanks to the fact that it's elementless and you don't have to worry about a monster's elemental weakness. Anyway, let's move on to the next build, which is the KJARR or KJARR DPS build. This build focuses on using any of the KJARR or KJARR weapons found from Arch-Tempered Korth. For the purpose of this video, I'll be demonstrating a paralysis build, but this can be easily changed into a elemental DPS build if you so desire. So for this build I need the Kaiser Crown Gamma, the Nergigante Mel Gamma, the Kaiser Vambraces Gamma, Nergigante Coil Gamma, Kaiser Greaves Gamma and the Focus Charm 2. I'm also using the Sharp Axe Paralysis for my weapon, which has a health regen augmentation on it. As for your jaws, again I've gone for mainly DPS focused ones here. For example, I've added Flawless Jaws to max out peak performance, a Mighty Jaw to add some maximum might, Tenderizer Jaw to add some weakness exploit, a Charger Jaw to max out focus, and then the final jaws will be for whatever ailment or element you are using. So for the purposes of this video, it was Paralyzer Jaws to max out the paralysis rating of this weapon, but if you're using something different, you can change this out. Anyway, if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 100 health, 100 stamina, 750 free attack, which will actually be higher when you're on a hunt and have maximum health thanks to peak performance, blue sharpness, 70% affinity, which will actually be 100% so long as you're going for monster weak points and have maximum stamina, 410 paralysis rating with power files, and you'll have a very strong defense against fire, but you're fairly weak to water and ice. As for the skills, you have the following. You have Critical Eye level 7, Paralysis Attack level 3, increasing the paralysis rating of this weapon, Focus level 3. You may question what Focus is doing on a switch axe build. Well, Focus is actually good because it allows your switch gauge and file system to charge up and recharge faster. Anyway, you have Peak Performance level 3. This will increase your raw attack but won't do anything to increase the ailment or elemental rating of this build. You have Maximum Might level 3, increasing our affinity when we have maximum stamina. Witness Exploit level 2, I've only gone up to level 2 because this is all we needed to actually get to that 100% mark. Agitator level 1, again a byproduct of the gear but can still be handy for increasing our attack a little bit as well as affinity. And you'll have Critical Status level 1. Critical Status increases the ailment damage of our weapon when we crit a monster. Alternatively, if you're using a KJARR elemental weapon, it will have Critical Element, increasing the elemental damage of your attack when you crit a monster. As for the set bonuses, you'll have Teostra's Technique, Master's Touch, preventing any sharpness loss when you crit a monster. And as this build has a lot of affinity, you shouldn't have to worry about losing sharpness whatsoever. Unfortunately, the KJARR Axe Paralysis cannot go beyond blue sharpness, so there is no real need for handicraft here. However, if you're using alternative weapons, then you may be able to get to that white sharpness, in which case you could consider dropping some skills. For example, you could drop Peak Performance or Focus in order to get your weapon to white sharpness. But nonetheless, this build is very powerful in terms of DPS, especially when you're taking on monsters who are weak to specific elements or ailments. It is also highly customizable and works with pretty much any of the KJARR weapons. Just remember to switch out the Paralyzer Jaws to match whatever element or ailment you are using. Anyway, let's move on to our next build, which I call the Survivability build. This build is a high health, high regen build that still has some DPS aspects to it. Whilst fights may take a little longer, there is less chance of carting when using this build. So for this build you'll need the Empress Crown Beta, Valhazak Mel Gamma, Kushala Grips Gamma, Valhazak Coil Gamma and the Valhazak Greaves Gamma. I'm also using an Attack Charm 3, and for my weapon I'm using the Empress Axe Ruin. This has a health regen augmentation attached to it. As for your jaws, I've gone for a mixed bag here. First of all, I've gone for Vitality Jaws to max out our health, Medicine Jaws to increase our recovery up, Flawless Jaw to max out peak performance, Tenderizer Jaws to max out weakness exploit, Mighty Jaws for some extra affinity when our stamina is full, an Attack Jaw to get attack boost to level 4, and a Sharp Jaw to provide us with that protective polish. Anyway, if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 150 health. This will actually be 200 health when you're actually on a hunt and taking the appropriate consumables, 100 stamina, 760 attack, which again will be higher when you're on a hunt thanks to peak performance, white sharpness, 25% affinity, which will actually be 75 when you hit monster weak points, 150 blast rating with power files, and you'll have a strong defense, especially against water, but you're very weak to fire and dragon. As for the skills, you'll have attack boost level 4, health boost level 3, this increases our maximum health to that 200 mark, recovery up level 3, increasing the amount of health we can recover through healing methods, recovery speed level 3, increasing the rate at which our health normally regenerates on its own. When you have a red portion of health on your health bar, your health will naturally over time start regenerating over that bit, and this increases the speed at which it does it. You have weakness exploit level 3, peak performance level 3, focus level 2, evade extender level 2. Evade extender comes in handy for the switch axe as it allows us to roll further, and is the best way that the switch axe can alleviate its maneuverability issues. You also have maximum might level 2, dragon attack level 1, this is a byproduct of the gear so we can ignore that, protected polish level 1 providing us that period of sharpness loss protection, Hasten Recovery level 1, which is normally the Nergigante set bonus. This is attached to the Empress Axe Ruin, allowing us to recover our health when we're hitting a monster. This does stack with the health regen augmentation found on the same weapon. And then finally you'll have the set bonuses Valhasak's Vitality Super Recovery, allowing for our health to naturally regenerate on its own past the red portion. So basically we can regenerate our entire health bar naturally over time. So this combined with the recovery up, recovery speed, hasten recovery and the health regen augmentation means that you should rarely have to stop to drink a potion. You can just keep wailing on a monster or sitting back and your health will recover. Now personally I'm quite a big fan of this build. As well as being heavily focused on health regen and having maximum health, it still is a little bit of an all-rounder build, able to pretty much take on any task you can do in Monster Hunter World. Okay, you may not be bringing down the monsters as fast as say the Elementless build version 2 or the KJARR DPS build, you nonetheless can take on the hardest of tasks quite comfortably with this build, making it, for me, quite enjoyable to use. Anyway, let's move on to our fourth and final build, which is the Power Prolonger build. This build again is a little bit of an all-rounder build, focusing on the Power Prolonger skill. Power Prolonger allows us to keep our files and switch gauge charged up for longer periods. This build also comes with quite a few DPS options as well. So for this build I'm using the Kulftroth's Fury Gamma, Draken Mail Alpha, Draken Vambraces Alpha, Draken Coil Alpha and the Draken Greaves Alpha. I'm also using a Health Charm free, and for my weapon I'm using the Taroth Axe Paralysis. This has an affinity increase augmentation on it. As for your jewels, I've gone for an Elementless jewel as the Taroth Axe Paralysis has its element hidden. I've gone for an Enhancer jewel to max out peak performance, Tenderizer jewels, an Attack jewel to get our attack boost to level 4, Expert jewels, an extra Mighty jewel, and a Critical jewel. Critical jewel will provide us with that critical boost skill. Anyway, if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 150 health, which is actually 200 once you've taken consumables on a hunt, 100 stamina, 903 attack with blue sharpness, 55% affinity, which is actually 100% when you're going for monster weak points, with no element, and power files. You also have an incredibly strong defense against thunder and dragon, but you're fairly weak to water and ice. As for your skills, you have Critical Eye level 7, Attack Boost level 4, Health Boost level 3, Critical Boost level 3. Critical Boost basically increases the damage of our critical hits, and as this build easily has that 100% affinity mark, this build can easily take advantage of this skill. You also have Weakness Exploit level 3, Power Prolonger level 3, allowing our files to stay charged for longer periods, Stun Resistance level 1, a byproduct of the gear but can still come in handy as it allows you to recover from stun effects quicker, Maximum Might level 1, and Non-Elemental Boost level 1. You also have the following set bonuses: Soul of the Dragoon, which includes Elemental Airborne, which is not needed on this build as the weapon is elementless, and you'll have Master's Touch, preventing sharpness loss when you crit a monster. And as this build can go up to 100% affinity, this comes in handy at preventing any sharpness loss. Alas though, the Taroth Axe Paralysis cannot get to white sharpness, so there is no handicraft on this build, but at the same time that means it allows us to focus on other DPS focused jewels. So as you can see, this is a little bit of an all-rounder build that shows off DPS potential as well as Power Prolonger. In some ways this build demonstrates the opposite of what you can do with the Elementless version 2.0 build, as in, instead of going for peak performance, because we have got that 100% affinity, we can go for critical boost instead. Ultimately it would be great to have both, but there are limits. Nonetheless, you can play around with this build if you so desire. For example, you can, if you want, completely drop the health boost charm in favour for the unscathed charm, which would provide us some peak performance. Nonetheless, this build is supposed to be a little bit of an all-rounder, and having that extra health boost can help on some of the tougher hunts. Also, the whole idea about Power Prolonger allowing us to keep our file charged for longer periods is kind of the opposite of the KJARR Elementless DPS build, which instead of Power Prolonger has Focus, allowing us to recharge the file quicker. So it's kind of two sides of the coin. Whilst Power Prolonger is fine and works well with this build, personally I prefer the Focus with the Switch Axe, but it's up to you at the end of the day. So there we have it. Those are even more builds that I like to use for the Switch Axe. Of course, Monster Hunter World is always being updated with new monsters and gear, which can potentially cause these builds to change and become even stronger, especially with Iceborne on the horizon. So if any major updates happen to any of these builds, I'll be sure to release an updated video. Remember also that almost any task in Monster Hunter World can be taken on with any weapon and gear set. You don't have to use what is shown off in these videos. These are just the sets that I personally like to use. Anyway, I hope you found this video helpful or informative, and until next time, I've been Darcblade, bringing you even more builds that I use for the Switch Axe in Monster Hunter World. Hope you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching, subscribe and like for more.